consolidation and maturity into what we now see as a knowledge system happened when people started settling down. So, what one calls the first urbanization. This settling happened between 10,000 and 6,000 years back. So, much earlier than 10,000 years back, people were predominantly hunter-gatherers, which is the only sustainable society. And when they started settling down, agriculture and domestication of animals came, and then the city-states emerged. Then you needed a ruler, and then you needed laws, and so on. And today we have up to Supreme Court, okay? So the various knowledge systems went into a churn, were strongly driven by institutionalized religions. Okay, we just mentioned briefly the institutionalized religion and their role. So this institutionalized religion and the colonization effect. Subsequent to this, the Western knowledge system not only dominated, has proliferated. Today, the Western knowledge system is greatly aided by modern science and technology, which emerged post the Renaissance period, which is 16th century. Okay. The question now here is why certain knowledge systems thrive or are popular. And in particular, why does Western knowledge system dominate now and what are its historical roots? Excellence in or through knowledge system does indeed endorse its acceptance. And we are looking at comfort and quality of life. The tenets or components of knowledge system provide to its people as reflected in culture seems to endorse its popularity and growth. So all said and done, for the last 3,000-4,000 years, in spite of so much of troubles, misery, conquest, flood, famine, bad governance, all that, we as a nation, more socially and culturally rather than geographically, seem to have lived overcoming all this, and we are living quite well. Not that we are in some terrible shape like you see in certain countries in Africa or what is now today in Afghanistan. It's also quite common to see imposed knowledge system which has neither comfort nor quality of life. You see that in ISIS, Taliban, Boko Haram in Nigeria, what is happening in North Korea, what happened in Syria recently. It's a very rich country, Syria. 5 times richer than us per capita income. But with all the wealth, they have gone into a severe turbulence and internal civil war simply because they have a imposed knowledge system. Okay. Similarly, what's happening in Golden Triangle, which is the border between Burma, Thailand, and Cambodia, which is a very, very turbulent spot in Southeast Asia. Okay. The question is, will any knowledge system finally bring peace, prosperity, and happiness to all? This is it. Finally, the goal of every knowledge system is to bring peace, prosperity, and happiness to all its followers. Okay. What is important is peace, prosperity, and happiness to all who will live with it or by it. But more important, all those around who may not subscribe to it. I must be happy here even if I don't subscribe to Indian knowledge system. That's the quality of any knowledge system, which not only brings peace, prosperity, and happiness to those who follow, but also those who don't follow it. But it has never happened. Closest that's happened to is in IKS. It's definitely not happened in Arabic knowledge system. It has not happened much in Western knowledge system too. How it is done is it is broadly achieved by its excellence, how utility the knowledge system is, how much justice it gives, how much high degree of equity, quality, and equality is there. So each of that can be one seminar. I will not look into all that. I will only look at excellence, which is indeed a hallmark of quality of any knowledge system. Okay. For example, in the Western knowledge system, the medical diagnosis is excellent. You have CT scan, you have sonographs, you have what all, you know, techniques and instrumentation available. Fantastic diagnosis. Okay. They can see inside your body and tell you what's going on. My only suspicion is about the treatment, but diagnostic is unbelievable. Even so, today, even Ayurvedic system has started using scan reports. So the diagnosis and the investigation is exceedingly good. Okay. So the roots and success of the Western knowledge system is because you still continue with the Greco-Roman basis for modern science and technology and philosophy. For example, we still use Archimedes' principle, Euclidean division algorithm, the geometry of Euclid, and we study Aristotle, Plato, and Socrates, all that, right? Yeah. What assisted all this is the state sponsorship of Christian philosophy or a worldview, followed and aided by wars and colonization, which was extremely brutal and violent. Okay. See, Christianity spread because in 323 AD, Emperor Constance declared that Christianity is the state religion. Till then, the Christians were suppressed. But in that period, when they declared Christianity as the state religion of Roman Empire, it got all the kind of wings that it wanted to fly, and Vatican became powerful, established, and they followed it with a tremendous amount of colonization all over. Okay. Uh, uh, for example, Islam and Christians fought each other for 712 years continuously. Okay, the famous crusades and all this, and Jerusalem was occupied 2 times by opposite sides. Constantinople was occupied. So many things happened over 700 years of war. Okay. So the maturity, expansion, and depth provided to modern science. Yeah, please, Achyutanand, don't talk in the middle. Mute yourself and talk if you want to. What has happened is development of manufacturing numerous gadgets, services in field of manufacture, finance, healthcare, and communication during the last 300 years. See, now and each of you have a mobile phone. And each of you, I think all of you have a TV at home. You have internet access. Your children play with these gadgets, etc., etc. You have a car or a motorbike or a scooter. You have a microwave oven at home. So many gadgets built on scientific principles has dominated our life, okay, daily life. So this is it. Your Aristotle, Plato, and Socrates, which we continue to see. The Greek mathematics, which we still follow, basically Euclidean contribution. And the later mathematicians like Euler, Newton, who invented both mechanics and calculus. And you see here how things have changed and at what pace. This is World War I, 1914 to 1918. You'll actually see the soldiers on a tank, all that. But in 100 years, this is a war in Iraq, where the war is happening in Iraq, but the commander of the army is sitting in an air-conditioned room in Texas and directing it. Similarly here, this is a photo of William Röntgen with the first X-ray. And in 100 years, you actually have a remote surgery done. Here is the surgeon operating on the patient through a robot. And here is the patient lying and the operation is being done. So in 100 years, the amount of change modern science and technology has done is unbelievable. Similarly is this Fourier idea of Fourier transform. But in 200 years, it has got converted to a CT scanner. Okay. And here are people who made the internet happen. Okay. And it's a very interesting thing that happened just about 4 years back. So after COVID-19 happened, they used what is called machine learning and artificial intelligence to create vaccines. So in 1 year, they had vaccines for COVID, which all of us have taken, and probably one of the reasons we are surviving today. So this is the impact of modern science and technology. But more interesting is traditional science and technology, where what we see modern science has capacity to both look forward and backward. It can look on a micro scale or a cosmic scale. ಯಾರು ನೋಡು ಮುಕುಂದ ಯಾರು ನೋಡು they can look outside the body and inside. They can look outside the body through a stethoscope, and they can look inside the body through a CT scanner. They can send people inside Earth, under the sea, and into moon. They have also caused irreparable damage, caused the climate issue today, and have been responsible for more damage than what happened in World War II. There is definitely more wealth in the world now, but there is also more inequality. And Western science also created the COVID-19 virus. It was an American-funded Chinese lab, and they were instructed and funded to do certain things, and they were glad to do it because there is money in it. And America was happy that somebody else was doing it. And when it goes wrong, you can blame the Chinese, but it's basically American funding. And it caused tremendous problem for the rest of the world. This is beginning of problems of Western science. From now on, you will have more than 51% negative things about Western knowledge than before. So there will be more negative than positive with Western science from now on. My feeling is it's already reached 80%. You have 80% negative things out of Western science, only about 20% positive, and I don't know when the scale will tip, okay? So we all know today, thanks to various telescopes like James Webb, and we now know that the universe started about 15 billion years back. And today is a modern man here, and it started with elementary particles, etc. The question is, if the universe started with a Big Bang, where is it going? So there are two things. One, that it can expand forever. The other model says it will expand till a critical stage and starts collapsing inside into another tiny thing, which again expands. So this cyclic nature of Big Bang followed by a big crunch is interesting, because this model seems to have maximum valid proof now, even though there are other contending models. And very interesting that we had already identified this. So many eminent scientists like Carl Sagan, Niels Bohr, all of them have said that the Indian or the Hindu knowledge system is the only system that has correctly identified the cyclic nature of universe and its time scales. So Akshohini, billion, so numbers like 10 to the power 12 and all were very common in our narratives, okay? So 1000 years before Western knowledge system identified cyclic nature and time scales, IKS had identified it correctly, but we had not done important thing. We had not measured it scientifically in modern terms, meaning objectively, or with instruments like Large Hadron Collider, LIGO Observatory, James Webb, whatever. So we had no idea of units and dimensions. So we had not measured. This is one serious lacuna in the Indian knowledge system, where we have not done objective measurement. Instrumentation has been very limited, okay? But the phenomena has been correctly identified. Similarly, if you look at any culture, superiority of that culture is in the knowledge that relates to its architecture. Today, I'm sure all of you are familiar. This is a famous Abu Simbel temple in Egypt, Egyptian civilization. This is a Great Wall of China, which many of you know. This is a Roman aqueduct. This is the Greek architecture in Athens. This is interesting remnants of architecture in what is called the Aztec civilization in Central America prior to Columbus, Mexico, Guatemala, Colombia, Bolivia, other places. And this is even more interesting. This is a huge Andes mountain range, very high altitude of 6,000 odd feet. There was a small civilization which we don't know how it started when it collapsed, but the architecture is very interesting. This is a place called Machu Picchu in Peru today. Very impressive, no doubt. But if you compare that with Indian knowledge system architecture, this is a high view of the entire Ajanta caves as you see, you approach from Aurangabad side, and a closer up of the caves, which are all rock cut caves. And inside the caves are this. So the caves were developed during 550 to 950 AD, current era. So over a period of 400 years, all these various caves were developed with sculpturing and other things. What is also interesting is that there are paintings. You will see paintings. Most interesting is these paintings are oil paintings. And oil paintings was first done in India 1,000 years before Europeans started, like Leonardo and all started doing oil painting. So oil painting and impressive architecture has been our contribution, not just here. More interesting is a place very close to Ajanta, the Ellora, Kailasnath temple. What is interesting is this is a hillock, you can see, part of the range. And this temple was carved upside down, meaning there was no foundation. First, the Gopura was carved and the rest of the temple was carved from the hillock top. So it's an amazing architecture. And here you see the scale. These are actual humans. And this is symbolic foundation. And the entire temple is held by elephant, which is also symbolic because this is just rock carved from top to bottom. Very impressive, huge size is unbelievable. I have seen many other architecture. I have also met experts who have seen other architecture in the world. There are 7 wonders in the world. If you replace all the 7 with a 0th number, that is better and more significant than the 7 now. It has to be Kailasnath temple, because not only it's impressive like this, it's also very delicate. So on the staircase, you will see carvings of Ramayana and Mahabharata. So it is on micro scale, very nice. On a telescope scale, magnificent. I don't think there is any better architecture in the world than this, but it takes a different viewpoint to appreciate it. I hope some of you don't miss it. I mean, living in India at this time and not seeing this is not a good attitude. Equally impressive, very delicate and ornamental work. This is a temple pillar in a place called Boganandishwara near Bangalore airport, Nandi Hills. It's a Hoysala architecture. Very, very, Hoysalas were exceedingly artistic. Okay. You don't find anything like this in the world. Okay. You may find impressive facade, large size, but even there you can be wrong, because even in size, amazing thing is this Brihadeshwara temple in Tanjavur. Unbelievable. What a scale it is. Okay. So hard rock, soft rock, monoliths, impressive size, delicate artistry, everything done. But another very interesting thing people miss and don't recognize is this palace. This palace is the second largest wooden palace in the world, because the first largest is in Tokyo, where currently the Emperor of Japan lives. He is a symbolic emperor, but is a constitutional head. This is a second largest wooden palace. I wish many of you visit, because this most people miss it. This is in a place between Trivandrum and Kanyakumari. It's a small town called Padmanabhapura, where if you go, you will see this. It's a magnificent wooden palace. Okay. So we have worked with wide variety on scale and size, which is unbelievable. And even more interesting, there's only one place in the world where stones are used to make music, and that's Hampi. It's probably the pinnacle of Indian architecture styles. Very mature and unbelievably grand. I wish you people spend time instead of going to mall and other, holiday homes and other stupid places. Please go travel in the country. India is an exceedingly rich country with tremendous amount of knowledge hidden in various forms and shape. Please don't miss it. Yeah, I have traveled half the world, but I don't move out now because I want to see my backyard better, and there is nothing like this. Okay. The other important thing is the most important contribution in the world has been the number system, particularly the decimal number system, which included the zero position. That's our contribution. It's wrongly called Arabic numerical system, which was a copy of the copy in Persian of the Indian numerical system. The copy translated worked in other disciplines of knowledge, including Ayurveda, astronomy, all that. Okay. And it finally ended up assisting Europe to do Renaissance in Italy. And this is a manuscript now found in a village called Bakshali, which is now in Pakistan. This is a manuscript original copy is in Oxford Museum, Oxford or Cambridge University Museum. So there they have solved a problem about barter trading of horses and camels and all that. This carries very important thing, because we were doing high grade algebra long before Greeks and Romans could do. And it's very interesting. In 200 BC, the famous Indian mathematician Pingala introduces binary system, which Europe will introduce approximately after 1800 years. We also had the idea of Pascal's triangle. We had the idea of Fibonacci series. Okay. See, in 1703, Leibniz introduces binary number system in Europe, approximately about 1900 years later. Brahmagupta introduced the idea of geometric series. He is the one who used zero as a position in what today is the real line and number system. He also used the negative numbers and zero for computing. The modern rule that two negative numbers multiplied together equals a positive number first appears here in 598 AD time. Okay. Even more interesting is Bhaskaracharya, who wrote 4 books in 12th century. One was on arithmetic, the other was on algebra, the third was on celestial mechanics, much earlier than Copernicus and Galileo. The fourth book was on conic sections. And he is the one who did trigonometry of compound angles. Please remember the trigonometry that Europeans will use in 15th and 16th century. Much better trigonometry was done in India long before that. In fact, today, 90% of all the trigonometry in the world that people use was done in India, okay? Including the famous compound angles, okay? And very interesting, the Indian numeral system, 1 to 9, then the positional 0 comes, okay? Then this becomes the first Sanskritized Devanagari script rendering of 1 to 10 with 0. And you will have by 10th, 14th century in Europe, it looks like this. And very interesting, this is the book, extract from the book by Fibonacci, where he says the Arabic numeral calculation is superior to the Latin numerical calculation because he was in North Africa. His father was a trader. They were trading goods with Arab traders who brought things from India. And that's how this number system, this is a Latin translation of the Persian book, Liber Abi, as he called it, into Latin, and that was made into a state document little over 10 years after that by through Vatican. And so Italy developed first. That's how you have Galileo and others coming. Newton comes 150 years after Galileo. So Renaissance happened in Italy, which is very close to North Africa. North Africa is important because North Africa had Arab traders who brought all this knowledge from Central Asia and eventually which came from India. And there is a nice, interesting seminar done by Professor Divakaran of TIFR, who clearly showed that Madhava, the school, arithmetic school of Madhava, which is near Guruvayur, they had developed all the ideas needed for Newton and Leibniz to do calculus. This had gone from Kerala to Europe through the Jesuit priests who were already active in Kerala coast. This is Srinivas Ramanujan, the world's greatest, one of the world's greatest mathematician. And he did maths through IKS type of thinking. And this is Professor Bruce Brent who visits that. This is one book which has a 40-page book, which he wrote the question and the answer. Why he did this is he did not have money to buy empty notebooks, but he solved all his problems on sand and on slate. Whenever he got the answer, he wrote it. So what Bruce Brent in University of Chicago, which is one of the leading places of mathematics in the world, what they have done is they have taken this notebook with problems and answers, and he has asked his research students to solve for the last 40 years. So every 5 or 6 pages of that book becomes one full book in Springer series. They have already produced 5 parts. The 6th one is about to be out, and that will close the last notebook of Ramanujan. So he was so original in thinking because he was not trained by the Macaulay model. And when he was sick in England, Hardy visits him. And when he visits, Hardy says, it's a very dull day. It is raining. It is murky, cold, chilly, very depressing weather. And also I came by a taxi whose number was 1729, which is probably the dullest number in the world. In fact, within 30 seconds, Ramanujan thought over and said 1729 is probably one of the most interesting number in the world because it is the first number which can be expressed as sum of the cubes in 2 different ways. And immediately a mathematical topic called taxi number started. So taxi number 2 is what Ramanujan did. Little later, taxi number 3 was done. 4, 5 was done using computers. And based on that, Hardy himself says on a rank of score of 100, he will get 25, his colleague Littlewood 30, the world's most famous mathematician of 20th century, David Hilbert, will get 80, but Ramanujan will get 100 of 100. That's the caliber of original thinking that we had in the country. Ramanujan is one example. There are equally good or better examples. I'll come to that. So this is that lost notebook. What is interesting is we were very famous for work of skill, metals, clothing, pottery, carpentry, agriculture, water management, etc. Very special is surgery, particularly plastic surgery, done as early as 800 BC, which is approximately 3000 years back. Okay. In Varanasi, Sushruta wrote his book, Sushruta Samhita, a treatise on surgery. These are the tools in 800 BC. That is 3000 years back. You had tools like this to do surgery. And today's modern surgical tools very resemble many of them, like scalpel and forceps and all that, right? Even more interesting is how plastic surgery went from India to England. You must remember between 1792 and 1794, we had the first and the second Mysore War, Britishers versus Tipu, Hyder Ali basically. And what is interesting is in a war, there are a lot of soldiers who fight and die, but it's not only soldiers. Along with soldiers, there are a lot of laborers who fetch water, who take the injured soldiers out, uh, push the cannons, bring gunpowder, all that. So there are a lot of laborers along with that. The rule those days was no soldier from any side will kill a laborer intentionally. They will only kill the soldiers. Accidentally, few laborers may die, but laborers were never killed. So here is an interesting example where this is a laborer in the British Army. He is from somewhere near Ratnagiri side. So he was one of the laborers. And in the war, he was caught along with many British soldiers. Many British soldiers were imprisoned in dungeon, but the laborers were released. But while releasing the laborers, what these people would do is either cut the ear or cut the nose and send them, so that it is a humiliation for having cooperated with the enemy. So there was one laborer who had lost his nose. He went back to Mumbai, where the British cantonment kind of thing was there. And after some time, the officers were also released from Srirangpatnam. They went back, and that officer observed this laborer and told, "What happened? Your nose was cut, but now I see your nose intact." He said, "This is very common in India. We have methods to restore our ear, eye, tongue, all that." So he asked how. So he took them to a doctor in Bombay who actually had done the plastic surgery. And this is how this was printed in the Gentleman's Magazine in London. And the whole idea of plastic surgery for the world went from Bombay to London. So and this was being done for 2000 years. This is unbelievable. In fact, uh, another interesting thing is about metallurgy. This is iron pillar, the famous Chandragupta II pillar. There's also the Ashoka pillar, which was done in 300 BC, kept in Ambala. But Muhammad bin Tughlaq brought it from Ambala to Delhi. And this iron pillar has not rusted in 2,500 years. Amazing metallurgy. Okay. And what's interesting is people hear a lot about a term called Sword of Damascus. What is Damascus today? Is an ancient city. It's a 2,500-year-old city. And Damascus was famous for making swords and knives and daggers and cleavers and all that. But they had no iron. They had only forging technique. And so forged steel or wrought iron ingots were made in India and shipped to Syria, where they were forged into knives, and the famous sword of Tipu Sultan also is made in Damascus, but the steel is from India. The other interesting excellence is one of the oldest book on political economy and public administration. Perhaps it was the first book which was truly interdisciplinary, unlike Greek books, say Euclid. Euclid was only on geometry, and Aristotle, Plato, Socrates had only philosophy. And it's also the first book of management and state administration. And the author was one of the foremost practitioner, not like our authors now, who only copy from others who have never practiced. Okay. And it is used on a global level. It is valid even more today. Unfortunately, not prescribed in India. It is prescribed in Harvard, I know, but not prescribed in IIT or IASU or India because it is Indian textbook. Okay. Macaulay effects are still there. This is the book, a book called Arthashastra. Okay. It is now a Penguin classic. Even though I'm from engineering background, I have a personal copy of this. I have read it many times. There are more interesting things because this copy of this book in manuscript form in palm leaf was finally found in very near my house in Mysore, in a place called Oriental Research Library in 1905. Before this discovery, our Macaulay-bred historians were busy propagating that Indians learned art of administration from Greeks. And here is a book which is a master of public administration and was done far earlier and better than this thing. Okay. So this book is definitely a classic of all sorts. And there are a lot of interesting contributions from Mysore in IKS. This is one of them. Even more interesting is one of the oldest book on grammar. It was done so well 2,500 years back. After that, nobody has improved on it. It is not only a book on grammar, it is a complete grammar of all languages on earth. It is critical in developing something called BNF, which only people from computer science background will know. It's called Backus-Naur form. That Backus-Naur form is the template by which all context-free grammar, that is programming languages, are made. There is no work better than this in any intellectual work in history of time. This work is 100 times better than Einstein's E equal to mc squared. What is Einstein's E equal to mc squared? It is an equation which tells how to eventually resulted in an atom bomb. It brought misery to everybody. Now you have Kim Jong who has it, and everybody in the world is worried. Why is this work not given importance? Because it is a work of India and it is in Sanskrit. That's why it is not given. The reason is this. Done by Panini. Till Panini did this work, nobody in the world knew whether they were talking correctly, reading correctly, or writing correctly because they had no idea of grammar. And if they did not know where it is wrong. Therefore, they did not know how to correct it. See, the greatest contribution in the history of the world is this. Because finally somebody showed how to read, write, and speak properly for everybody on earth. This is how Takshashila was, where he was teaching. And not only logic, you will see that they were from 4th century BC all the way to 18th century AD, 2,200 years, people have been doing work of logic in India. Whereas in West, it stopped with Aristotle logic. Once Aristotle built his logical systems, it just continued from there. Okay? The greatest reformer, father of world linguistics, is Panini. And this is his famous Ashtyaদি. And there is a very interesting thing that American linguist Bloomfield called it the greatest monument of human intelligence. And more interesting, Dr. Noam Chomsky had even better to say. I have not met Chomsky, but my good friend was his student. And he told me that when he went to do his research there, Chomsky asked him, "You are from India. You must know Panini. Why are you coming to MIT or Harvard and wasting your time?" Because what Panini did 2,500 years back, our whole department for last 100 years has not done 1/10 of that. Don't waste your time with us. You go and do whatever you want with Panini. That's the remark Noam Chomsky told. And this is not even accepted. Oh, E equal to mc squared. Oh, Newton's laws. Fine, all are valid. But this is far superior to any knowledge created anywhere in the world because finally somebody showed how to talk, read, and write properly. The foundational value. Okay. Another interesting thing, independent of any knowledge system, it had nothing to do with reading, writing directly. It is a contribution of universal good, one of the most important to human life everywhere. It is a preventive medicine with significant therapeutic value. So you don't need any raw material to use. The only person who will not value this is a fool. It is the greatest good done to human well-being from any knowledge system. Well-being at zero cost, no collateral damage, non-institutional or dogmas there. It is now the best brand of eye case, like Amul is for slow and fast food. Now it's the best brand of eye case the world over. This is Patanjali's yoga done 200 BC, that is 2,500 years back. Various things and mostly focusing on asanas and pranayama. There are other things also. Even more interesting is this. Meditation and pranayama is at least 4,000 years old. Most universal good. And what is interesting is this is it. The yoga, which is self-healing and improvement of mind and body without any medicine, was resurrected in Mysore by this interesting person called Krishnamacharya, who died in 1989. He was 100 years old. He actually went to Tibet, Mount Kailas. And when he went, this was in the year in 1919 or 1920, just after World War I. He went with Maharaja of Mysore for pilgrimage. Maharaja returned. But while he went there, today most people who go there are not allowed. They are only given a outer parikrama. When you go to the inner parikrama, at the base of Mount Kailas, there are Tibetan monks staying in caves. Even now. They were there 100 years back also. They met him and conveyed to him that for 2,000 years, particularly 1,000 years of Islamic rule and 200 years of colonial rule, your basic Indian knowledge system about yoga has been completely destroyed. We picked it up after Buddha. So around 4th century, 5th century AD, it went to Tibet. We have preserved it. Why don't you spend time with us, learn and take it back to the source, which is India, which is where we got it. So Krishnamacharya stayed with those Tibetan monks for about approximately 2.5 years, learned all the asanas and other things which we had lost, came back and started a yoga school in Mysore. His first disciple is the famous B.K. Iyengar, who popularized Hatha Yoga all over the world. Okay. And that's the Mysore contribution of IKS. And you see who practices every day. They are all very clever. They know what is good for them. They'll give you advertisement for Boost and Horlicks and all that, but they don't drink it themselves. Okay. We are stupid. We just believe them on advertisement. But what they do for themselves, we don't know. So we should not trust the advertisement. What we should do is we should trust ourselves. Okay. Other thing which is very unfortunate is the fact that we had the best university education system in the world. We had the first large campuses and tremendous amount of quality and equity was both there, meaning those who could pay fees were taught in the morning. Those who could not pay fees were taught in the evening, because morning they would work in the Gurukula or Guru's house or in the university. It was earn while you learn scheme. It was there for a very long time till it was destroyed first by, it was all the time destroyed by the Islamic rule. See, Oxford started in 13th century, Harvard started in 17th century. The first university in the world was Bologna in 12th century in Italy. This is the world's first university in Takshashila. You can see here. This is Noel Joseph Terence Montgomery Needham. She's a British scientist, historian, and sinologist. She said when the men of Alexander the Great came to Taxila in India in the 4th century BC, they found a university the like of which had not been seen in Greece, a university which taught the 3 Vedas and 18th accomplishments and was still existing when Chinese pilgrim Huaiyan went there in 400 AD. Takshashila eventually collapsed in around 600 AD. By that time, Nalanda and other things had started. You see here, which existed in ancient 2007 near. This place is now near Islamabad. This is how it looks today. These are the ruins of Takshashila, which is on the outskirts of modern Islamabad. And it had 10,500 students from 16 countries who studied 64 different subjects and taught by scholars like Panini. Not only that, immediately after that, so many universities started in India. Ratnagiri, Vikramshila, Jagdale, Somapura, Odantapuri, Pushpagiri, Nalanda, Takshashila, Vallabh University, Bikrampur. India was the only country to have university education in ancient times. The reason why they were all shattered by invaders. This is the first thing the Islamic invaders did. Destroyed the formal education. As I said, you see how much trade was there, and the trade went all the way. People, this was a torturous route. This was easier. You could collect many other materials and either go by Red Sea or cross by caravan, go here and go by ship. In fact, even worse, you can go by land here and go here. This is Carthage. Very easy to reach Italy. See here. There's an interesting traveler called Ibn Battuta who came from Morocco, traveled all the way here and went back. Such people were coming because trade was very common to Europe through North Africa and West Asia. What happened with trade was calculation. So the Hindu numeral system was used by the Arabs in a Persian form, and that Persian form was translated to Latin. And this is how Fibonacci, see, he was born in Italy and ended in Italy. He spent his younger years in North Africa because his father was a trader. So he learned Hindu calculations, converted that into Latin, and then it became the decimal system for Europe, for Leibniz, Galileo, Newton, all of them to do all this. In fact, this is the Taylor series you see in mathematics is just a small modification of the Madhava's power series. You will see that in a BBC. There is a two serial BBC documentary on ancient mathematics, which clearly tells how Madhava's convergence of series limits eventually was copied by Leibniz and Newton to invent calculus. Okay. Of course, the Western knowledge system dominates because you see here this interesting conference in 1927 in a place called Solvay in Belgium. All these people came for the conference. Nobody sponsored. They paid their own money, lived with friends, collected in a hall, and discussed about the subject. What is interesting is in this photo, almost the conference had about 19 people who already had Nobel Prize, and another 11 will get Nobel Prize down the line, and 3-4 of them will miss the Nobel Prize. Today, our problem is you look at your academic activity, one idiot of a vice chancellor will come, one idiot of a registrar will come, 2 HODs who are idiots will come, 1,400 idiots will participate, have lunch and go. Nothing with subject matter. We have the world's worst education system now. Okay. Last 70 years, we have been fooling around. And UGC, AICT, and university system, all are responsible for that. It has nothing to do with learning and knowledge. It is occupation and time pass. Okay. It has become livelihood. It has not become education. This is the reason why Western knowledge system will dominate. And today, of course, we are serious problem because people have become very rich, and rich people cause lot of problem. For example, today, one of the biggest problems in university is parking space. Okay. That is because faculty have become very rich with cars and motorbike. They have not become rich with heart and mind. Mind is very bad, substandard. Okay. It has also created a lot of poverty. So the gap between rich and poor is very big in India. It is getting bigger. It is getting bigger. And not only that, the numbers have become very big. Please, Jayana, stop talking. Jayana, please stop talking. Jayana, please stop talking. Stop talking, Jayana. So what we really need to do is things like this. What Kurian did. He did a fantastic thing. He simply observed native knowledge of Gujarati women who were into the milk business. And this milk business is a continuity of what was happening in Indus Valley civilization. So in fact, now today, when you dig in certain Indus Valley sites, you actually get terracotta conical tubes with perforation, which was designed to make paneer. Okay. So there is a culture of milk and milk products collected and delivered to homes for the last 3,000 years in Punjab, in Rajasthan, in more so in Gujarat. So Kurian observed this and said, let's get all the people together and we will bring in Western technology of the kind which will increase the purity, increase the shelf life, diversify the product, and remove the drudgery. This is what he did. So he could actually put the right amount of technology into a traditional knowledge. And the story is Amul. Amul is the world's greatest company. It's a first cooperative actually, and unbelievable because it has directly influenced the prosperity of 15 million farmer families. Unbelievable. No education has done it in India. No formal education. So this is interesting. The way to go forward is to leverage the limited modern science into native knowledge and empower them. So how has the world truly changed? Look at this. What is happening to the poor people? They continue to work and work. What do the rich do? They exploit the poor. What does the soldier do? We had soldiers fighting for all of us. They don't distinguish whether we are rich or poor. Their duty is to protect the border. What does the taxpayer do? Taxpayer pays for all three. What does the banker do? He robs all four. What does the lawyer do? He will mislead all five. What does the doctor do? He will bill all six. What does the gundas do? He will scare all seven. What does the politician do? Live happily on account of the above eight. So the first thing the politician does is protect the gundas, so that the gundas can scare all others, collect money. These people also live happily by having gundas with them. This is the culture of the society, but it's very interesting who said this and when. This was said by a very interesting senator called Marcus Cicero in 43 BC. So in last 2,200 years, not much has changed for people. People continue to be rich, continue to be miserable, continue to be sick. They are collected money by others, and it is basically a large amount of unhappiness. This is how the world has been. Your sense of happiness is when unhappiness is not there, you feel happy. So absence of unhappiness is happiness for you. You go to college, you are very unhappy to go because most colleges are very unhealthy atmosphere of working today, very toxic. When you go within half an hour, some politician dies, they give holiday. You are very happy. You are very happy when you don't go to work because work is a very toxic environment. Same is with society. So no knowledge system has actually helped people to achieve peace, prosperity, and happiness. Peace, happiness, and prosperity is predominantly an individual decision. You have to strive for it. That is why you need a good family, you need good friends, you need a good lifestyle. These are preconditions for happiness. Okay. So again, I repeat, these two books are very interesting to read and uh, debate on. Please read. Many of you new generation teachers are very poor in reading and writing. Please correct that aberration. Start reading good things. You don't have to read a lot. You have to read well, few important things. And these are two very important things not just related to IKS. These are two important books for our life to understand us. We understand our society, our humanity, everything. It's very good to know about it because it'll at least make you more peaceful, if not prosperous. Okay. And also it will improve your mental health. Okay. I will share these two presentations with Dr. Nanjun Swami. He will share it with you on